Awareness building and consciousness raising facts. Forward. From low to high, the degrees of consciousness are disgrace, guilt feelings, apathy, sorrow, dread, want, angriness, pridefulness, bravery, disinterest, willingness, acceptance, understanding, love, delight, peace, enlightenment. Although we can jump in and out of different levels at assorted times, generally there's a prevailing normal for us. This book will go over these levels in order. There is a logarithmic scale to define where a person is, so there are far fewer people at the higher levels than at the lower ones. And step up from one level to another will result in tremendous changes in your life. Awareness building and consciousness raising facts. Discover the truth behind every single choice you make as a human being. Chapter 1, Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. Synopsis. Psychologist Abraham Maslow first introduced his concept of a hierarchy of needs in his 1943 paper, A Theory of Human Motivation, 1, and his subsequent book, Motivation and Personality. This hierarchy proposes that individuals are motivated to fulfill basic needs before moving on to extra needs. The needs. Maslow thought that these needs are like instincts and play a major role in motivating conduct. Physiological, security, social, and esteem requirements are deficiency needs, aka D needs, meaning that these needs come up due to deprivation. Fulfilling these lower-level needs is important in order to prevent unpleasant feelings or results. Maslow termed the highest level of the pyramid as growth needs, also known as being needs or B needs. Growth needs don't come from a lack of something, but instead from a want to grow as an individual. There are 5 different levels in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. 1. Physiologic needs. These include the commonest needs that are critical to survival, like the need for water, air, food and rest. Maslow thought that these needs are the commonest and natural needs in the hierarchy, as all needs become lower till these physiologic needs are fulfilled. 2. Protection needs. These include needs for refuge and protection. Protection needs are crucial for survival, but they are not as exacting as the physiologic needs. Examples of protection needs include a desire for firm employment, health insurance, safe places to live and protection from the environment. 3. Social needs. These include needs for belonging, love and tenderness. Maslow believed these needs to be less common than physiologic and protection needs. Kinships like friendships, romantic attachments, and family units help fill this need for company and acceptance, as does involvement in social, community or spiritual groups. 4. Regard needs. After the first 3 needs have been fulfilled, regard needs becomes progressively crucial. These include the need for things that reflect on self-regard, personal worth, social recognition and achievement. 5. Self-actualizing needs. This is the highest level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Self-actualizing individuals are self-conscious, concerned with personal growth, less worried with the opinions of other people and interested satisfying their potential. Chapter 2, Disgrace and Guilt. Synopsis. Disgrace, just a notch above demise. You're probably mulling over suicide at this level. Either that or you're a serial murderer. Consider this as self-directed hate. Guilt, a notch above disgrace, but you still might be having thoughts of self-destruction. You consider yourself a sinner, not able to forgive yourself for past transgressions. The first 2. Disgrace is said to be one step above demise. At this level, the basic emotion one feels is humiliation. It's not surprising that this level, being so close to death, is where many thoughts of self-destruction are found. Those who suffer from sexual assault are often found here, and without therapy they tend to stay here. Deep, insalubrious disgrace is the internal feeling that we're dirty, flawed as an individual, or not good enough. In a few individuals it can result in low self-regard. Individuals living with rudimentary shame might believe these feelings are normal, and might think others feel the same way. While these feelings might be quite common, they're not the norm, and can block fulfilling our happiness. Like other human emotions we might perceive as all bad, there surely is a positive aspect of disgrace. In a positive setting, disgrace is the feeling message that lets us recognize we aren't acting inside our morals and values. There are so many non-helpful messages we collect throughout our lives that may become internal, automatic messages. We may unconsciously, unwittingly, repeat these messages in our mind again and again. We generally collect, or formulate these non-helpful messages when we're forming our self-image, how we see ourselves, and how we think others see us. The result of feeling this sort of disgrace is devastating and always painful. Not too far from disgrace is the level of guilt. Once one is stuck in this level, beliefs of worthlessness and an inability to forgive oneself are most common. Among the definitions of guilt that have been proposed are the following. Guilt is a message of disapproval from the conscience which says in effect, you should be ashamed of yourself. Guilt is anger toward yourself. Guilt is a bothered conscience. Everyone who's thought very deeply on the matter agrees that guilt is a function of the conscience. Everybody has a conscience. It's the conscience that differentiates the good from the bad. William Shakespeare wrote, my conscience hath 1,000 several tongues, and every tongue brings in a several tale, and every tale condemns me for a villain. But conscience doesn't function in the same way for everyone. Some of the most atrocious crimes that have ever been perpetrated were executed by men who felt no remorse for their evil actions. Adolf Hitler's final solution to the Jewish problem was the indiscriminate wiping out of men and women and children. There are absolutely no grounds that he ever felt any remorse or self-doubt. It's been alleged that Stalin was responsible for the death of 20 to 30 million individuals during his reign as Russia's premier, but again there's no evidence that there was any sorrow or feeling of wrongdoing. On the other hand, a few individuals have such consciences that seem to work overtime. It's not strange for somebody to call and say, I owe you an apology. More often than not, I wasn't even aware of the supposed offense and it involved some sort of minor occurrence that I never gave afterthought. Yet the person who calls suffers from a pained conscience. Clearly, a person must have an awareness of what he has done when they feel disgrace. But once you've recognized it and addressed it, there's no reason to use guilt feelings as a tool to motivate yourself or other people to do right. In order to effectively cope with guilt, we must firstly know as best we can what's really right and what's really wrong. Put differently, we need to separate true guilt from false guilt, and we need to wipe out as much of the moot or arguable guilt as we can from our system of values. We frequently hear individuals say, let your conscience be your guide, and we react to that by stating, no, your conscience isn't always correct. But the fact of the matter is that you can't live very effectively if you perpetually go against your conscience. So what's needed is a willingness to let your conscience be molded and changed by what is right. To do that, you've got to be a truth seeker. You've to be willing to change when the right ways conflict with old patterns of behavior and belief. Chapter 3, Apathy and Sorrow. Synopsis. Apathy, feeling hopeless or exploited. The state of instructed helplessness. Many homeless individuals are bound here. Sorrow, a state of ceaseless sadness and loss. You may sink here after losing a loved one. A closer look. Apathy. The level of helplessness and despair. This is the basic consciousness found among those who are homeless or living in poverty. At this level, one has abdicated themselves to their current situation and feels dead to life around them. In dealing with apathetic individuals, I often wish I could rip my heart out of my chest and stick it in their chest to give them the courage they need to get moving. But I'd never do that because it would make a real mess of my cardiovascular system. I'd die an agonizing death, and there's no guarantee the other individual is the same blood type as me. It's absolutely okay to admit you're on the wrong path and to be uncertain and frustrated about what to do next. This is a very human situation. The benefit of dealing with those hard feelings is that they'll help you clarify what you do want, and therein lies the energy to pursue new opportunities for greater happiness and fulfillment. Sorrow. Many of us have felt this at times of calamity in our lives. However, having this as your primary level of consciousness, you live a life of ceaseless regret and remorse. This is the level where you feel all your chances have passed you by. You ultimately feel you're a failure. As the years go by, life has a way of dealing its pain and challenges to everybody. And the longer you live, the greater your chances of being hit by a major sorrow. And there's no easy way out or quick cure for it. Such is life. You may be tempted to lessen this tragedy in your life by numbing your mind with alcohol or drugs, or escape from it by reading or watching TV incessantly. But it is an important part of eventual grief resolution that you experience and express grief fully, especially in the beginning. Staying active is one way to take one's mind off sorrow chiefly. Activities help distract an habit from whatever it is that's causing their sorrow, and it likewise helps channel unspent energies that build up when one is sad. Keeping active also releases endorphins, natural mood boosters that somehow cheer people up. Chapter 4, Dread and Want. Synopsis. Dread, seeing the world as grave and unsafe. Paranoia. Commonly you'll need help to rise above this level, or you'll continue trapped for a long time, such as in an abusive relationship. Want, not to be confused with setting and accomplishing goals. This is the level of dependency, craving, and lust, for income, approval, power, fame, etc. Consumerism. Materialism. This is the level of smoking and drinking and drugging. The next levels. Dread. Individuals living under dictatorship rule or those involved in an abusive relationship find themselves at this level. There's a sense of paranoia here, where you think everybody is out to get you. Suspicion and defensiveness are basic. We have a lot of dreads: dread of terrorism, dread of death, dread of being separated from individuals we love, dread of losing control, dread of commitment, dread of failure, dread of rejection, dread of losing our job. The list is never ending. Many of our present dreads are rooted in what are identified as delusions, distorted ways of viewing ourselves and the world around us. If we learn to control our mind, and reduce and eventually eliminate these delusions, the source of all our dread, healthy and unhealthy, is eradicated. A balanced fear of our delusions and the suffering to which they inevitably give rise is consequently healthy because it serves to motivate constructive action to avoid a true danger. We only need fear as an impetus till we have removed the causes of our vulnerability through discovering spiritual, inner refuge and gradually training the mind. Once we have done this, we're fearless as we no longer have anything that can harm us. Want. Want is a major motivator for much of our society. Although want can be an impulse for change, the downside is that it leads to enslavement to one's appetites. This is the level of dependence to such things as sex, money, prestige, or power. Our wants can lead us to do great things or horrifying things. We deal with our wants daily. We deal with wants to do things that we know are wrong, and wants to do things that we know are right. Many of our wants are illusory or exaggerated at best. It was suggested that by not satisfying many of the wants we have, a mood of dissatisfaction was a prevalent characteristic of life due to the letdown of the lack of achievement in these quests to fulfill our desires. The ultimate conclusion is that one can have a tolerable life not by complete elimination of want, since this would lead to boredom, but by becoming a detached observer of one's own will and being perpetually aware that most of one's wants will remain unfulfilled. Chapter 5, Angriness and Pridefulness. Synopsis. Angriness, the level of frustration, frequently from not having your wants met at the lower level. This level can spur you to action at greater levels, or it can keep you stuck in hate. In an abusive relationship, you'll frequently see an anger individual coupled with a fear person. Pridefulness. The first level where you begin to feel good, but it's a false feeling. It's contingent on external circumstances, income, prestige, and so forth, so it's vulnerable. Pridefulness can lead to nationalism, racism, and religious wars. Think German Nazi. A state of irrational denial and defensiveness. Religious fundamentalism is likewise stuck at this level. You get so closely enmeshed in your beliefs that you see an assault on your beliefs as an assault on you. Advancing. Angriness. As one moves out of apathy to sorrow and then out of dread, they start to want. Want which isn't fulfilled leads to frustration, which brings us to angriness. This anger may cause us to move out of this level or keep us here. We all experience angriness. Managed in fit ways, anger can be a positive thing, a red flag that something's awry, a catalyst for change, a beneficial self-motivator. Handled badly, anger can cause health and relationship problems. Sometimes individuals may feel generally irritable because of stress, sleep loss, and other factors. More often, there's a more particular reason for the angriness. Either way, you are able to become more cognizant of what's behind your anger if you keep an anger journal, a record of what makes you angry throughout the day, for a couple of weeks, then talk it over with a good friend, or even see a therapist to uncover fundamental sources of angriness, if you find yourself stumped. Once you're more aware of your sources of angriness, you are able to take steps to deal with it. Your angriness is telling you something. The first part of dealing with angriness, as discussed, is examining it and listening to what it's telling you about your life. The next part involves assuming action. Knowing why you're upset can go a long way, but eradicating your anger triggers and fixing troubles that make you angry are evenly crucial. You might not be able to eliminate everything in your life that causes you anger and frustration, but cutting down what you can should go a long way. Pridefulness. Since the majority of individuals are below this point, this is the level that most individuals aspire to. It makes up a great deal of Hollywood. In comparison to disgrace and guilt feelings, one begins to feel positive here. But, it's a false positive. It's dependent upon extraneous conditions like wealth, position or power. It's also the source of racism, nationalism, and religious fanaticism. Pridefulness makes us blind to our faults. We assume that we're better than other people and look down on others that we consider less than us. Pridefulness is always associated with wickedness, as it really is a cover-up for our failures and insecurities. A necklace is a jewelry that enhances the neck while removing attention on a person's other's qualities that might not be so attractive. Similarly, a proud individual will linger over their accomplishments, looks, power or whatever it is that makes them proud, as it covers their weaknesses. Some it is the pride of being born in an affluent family or a privileged class or country, but the familiar thing is the assumption that one is better than other people. Don't center on your current situation and start comparing yourself with others that you assume are doing better than you. Pridefulness makes us restless because we're always wondering whether somebody else has acquired or achieved more than us. Humility makes us put others first and gain contentment with what has been provided in our lives. Chapter 6, Bravery and Disinterest. Synopsis. Bravery. This is the level of empowerment. It's the first level where you're not taking life energy from those around you. Bravery is where you see that you don't need to be tossed to and fro by your extraneous conditions. This empowerment leads you to the fruition that you are a steward unto yourself, and that you alone are in charge of your own development and success. This is what makes you inherently human. The fruition that there's a gap between stimulus and response, and that you have the potential to decide how to respond. Disinterest. Disinterest is the level of flexibleness. To be neutral, you're, for the most part, uncommitted to outcomes. At this level, you're satisfied with your current life position and tend not to have a lot of motivation towards self-improvement or excellence in your career. You recognize the possibilities but don't make the sacrifices called for to accomplish a higher level. More levels. Bravery. The first level of real strength. This is where you begin to see life as challenging and exciting rather than overwhelming. You start to have a glimmer of interest in personal growth, although at this level you'll likely call it something else like skill building, career advancement, education, and so forth. You begin to see your future as an improvement upon your past, instead of a continuation of the same. Define what sort of bravery you're seeking. If you don't define what bravery means to you, you might be tempted to chase socio-idealized forms of bravery which, even if attainable, wouldn't make you a better individual. The best definition of worthwhile bravery is moral courage. You might also want to add fearlessness of daily challenges, or absence of hesitation to help someone in need. This is highly individual, and completely depends upon your personality and your goals. Be both realistic and optimistic. Be optimistic when it will help you better yourself or inspire other people. Be realistic when you need to develop a plan of action. Pick based on which will help the most in a given situation. But never, ever, be pessimistic. Pessimism is doubt, which is the enemy of progress. Disinterest. This level is typified by the phrase, live and let live. It's pliable, relaxed, and uncommitted. Whatever happens, you roll with the punches. You don't have anything to prove. You feel secure and get along well with others. A lot of self-employed individuals are at this level. A very comfortable place. The level of self-satisfaction and laziness. You're taking care of your needs, but you don't push yourself overly hard. You'll deepen your sense of self-satisfaction if you let go of delusional ideas and center on the little things that are more readily accessible, doable and manageable. When you do this, things will gradually unfold before you in a way that's right for you, at that particular time in your life. So, one of the key ingredients towards leading a prosperous and fulfilling life is to ensure that you're flexible in both thought and action. Do what is essential to make the ascent natural, for rewards are around you already, if you were keen to notice them. So dear reader, you don't have to give up, you don't have to agonize over those you're attempting to model, you don't have to feel inadequate at any stage as long as you keep to your true self. Work hard, because now you comprehend that life really is non-linear. Chapter 7, Willingness and Toleration. Synopsis. Willingness. Those individuals around you that are ceaseless optimists, this is their level of consciousness. Viewing life as one big possibility is the basis of those operating here. No more are you satisfied with complacency, you strive to do your best at whatever task you have set about. You start to develop self-control and willpower and learn the importance of sticking with a job till the end. Toleration. If bravery is the realization that you're the source of your life's experiences, then it's here where you become the creator of them. Blended with the skills learned in the willingness phase, you start to awaken your potential through action. Here's where you start to set and accomplish goals and to actively push yourself beyond your previous limitations. Up to this point you've been broadly reactive to what life throws at you. Here's where you turn that around. Take charge, and become proactive. Farther up. Willingness. Now that you're essentially safe and comfy, you begin using your energy more effectively. Only getting by isn't good enough any longer. You start caring about doing a good job, maybe even your best. You consider time management and productivity and getting organized, things that weren't so crucial to you at the level of disinterest. Consider this level as the development of willpower and self-control. These individuals are the troopers of society, they get things done well and don't sound off much. If you're in school, then you're a really adept student, you take your studies earnestly and put in the time to do a good job. This is the point where your consciousness becomes more organized and conditioned. Most persons in life constantly seek ways to accomplish more during their precious days, only to get stuck accomplishing the same old average results. It is not new to see this happening every place in this country, and the main reason for this results is lack of centering or self-control. Listen closely at what I'm going to say. Nothing can ever be accomplished of great esteem without self-control. If you review your life, you'll probably see throughout your family tree a lack of self-discipline. Now, we can point fingers at why this happened, or we can center on changing it. The best way to have self-control in your life is to control your thoughts. Now the way to control your thoughts is by centering on what you want. You see, we always focus in our life to what's important to us. For several, spending lots of time in front of a TV is important, and for other people is a total waste of time. Both kinds of individuals are right in their priorities, it's just a matter of who you ask. We're not here to say who is and who is not. Your goal is to detect what's important to you, and then your second goal is to center on it. That's the only way I know you are able to accomplish what you want. Achieving more daily has to do with your level of desire towards what you want. If you've a strong desire for the task, you automatically have more self-control. How come? Because it's crucial to you. I know that's simple, but who said concepts are meant to be complicated? Toleration. Now a potent shift happens, and you awake to the possibilities of living proactively. At the level of willingness you've become competent, and now you prefer to put your abilities to beneficial use. This is the level of setting and accomplishing goals. I don't like the label toleration that Hawkins applies here, but it essentially means that you start accepting responsibility for your role in the world. If something isn't correct about your life, your vocation, your health, your relationship, you specify your desired outcome and alter it. You begin to see the big picture of your life more clearly. This level drives many individuals to switch vocations, begin a new business, or alter their diets. We need to realize the areas of our lives that we've refused to take responsibility for. The longer we deny their existence, the longer we stay in victim mode, allowing the wounded inner child to control every aspect of our emotions. The programming of our inner child orders emotional response, but programming can be altered, and the inner child eventually grows up and accepts responsibility for who they are, what they'll become, and how they treat other people. Our inner child is a vital part of who we are, and there's a big difference between a wounded, suffering inner child and a healthy, well-adjusted one. Chapter 8, Understanding and Love. Synopsis. Understanding, the level of science, medicine, and a want for knowledge. Your lust for learning becomes insatiable. You don't waste time in activities that don't provide educational value. You start to categorize all of life and its experiences into proofs, postulates, and possibilities. The failure of this level is you can't seem to separate the subjective from the objective, and for of that, you tend to miss the point. You fail to see the forest because you're tunnel-visioned on the trees. Paradoxically, understanding can become a stumbling block for further progressions of consciousness. Love, only if, in the level of understanding, you begin to see yourself as a potential for the greater good of mankind, will you have adequate power to enter here. Here is where you begin applying what was learned in your thinking, and you let the heart take over instead of the mind. You live by intuition. This is the level of brotherly love, a selfless love that's no desire except for the welfare of those around them. Gandhi and Mother Teresa are examples of individuals who were living at this level. Only 0.4% of the world will ever accomplish it. More difficult levels. Understanding. At this level you transcend the emotional facets of the lower levels and start to think clearly and rationally. This is the level of medicine and science. The way I see it, when you accomplish this level, you become capable of utilizing your reasoning abilities to their fullest extent. You now have the discipline and the proactivity to fully tap your natural abilities. You've accomplished the point where you say, geez, I can do all this stuff, and I know I must put it to beneficial use. So what's the best use of my talents? You have a look around the world and begin making meaningful contributions. At the very high end, this is the level of Einstein and Freud. It's likely obvious that most never reach this level in their entire lives. Decidedly we gain much knowledge from books, for it's truly said nothing can be thought or imagined that cannot be made manifest. Consequently, whatever thought a man may flirt with or express, we know that it denotes a condition that might obtain and that it's a reflection from one of humanity's aspects, though the color might be dark and disgusting. It might carry with it the most devilish suggestion and influence, or it might be luminous with the highest thought and purpose, impelling to noble deeds and words. Therefore from the printed page we gain much if we view each of these as an exhibition only of man's composite nature and that it expresses his viewpoint. He who truly wants to help humanity must first off forget self, and then he will find increased knowledge and power in every move that might be made. He won't be troubled with doubts nor cast down by disappointments, but with the simple trust of a child will touch bigger heights than he dreamed of. He won't need to hunt for nature's secrets through hidden ways. Love. I don't care for the label love here, as this isn't the emotion of love. It's unconditional love, a permanent understanding of your connection with all that lives. Consider compassion. At the level of understanding, you live in service to your head. But that eventually becomes a stalemate where you fall into the trap of over-intellectualizing. You see that you need a greater context than just thinking for its own sake. At the level of love, you now set your head and all your other talents and abilities in service to your heart, not your emotions, but your bigger sense of right and wrong, your conscience. I see this as the level of awakening to your real purpose. Your motives at this level are pure and undefiled by the desires of the ego. This is the level of lifespan service to humanity. Think Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Dr. Schweitzer. At this level you likewise start to be guided by a force greater than yourself. It's a feeling of relinquishing. Your intuition gets extremely strong. This level is reached only by 1 in 250 individuals during their entire lifespan. When you feel enough of the unconditional love of others, you'll have the most crucial treasure in life. The wounds of the past will heal. Wounds caused by insufficient true love, and you'll feel whole and happy. As your emptiness and fear are eliminated by this, you'll simply have no need to use bad behaviors. Without those behaviors, you'll find relationships with others relatively effortless and will begin finding the happiness you've always wanted. Chapter 9, Delight and Peace. Synopsis. Delight, a state of permeating, unshakable felicity. The level of saints and furthered spiritual teachers. Just being around individuals at this level makes you feel unbelievable. At this level life is amply guided by synchronicity and intuition. There's no longer need to set goals and arrive at detailed plans. The expansion of your consciousness lets you operate at a much greater level. A near-death experience can temporarily knock you to this level. Peace, total transcendency. This level is accomplished only by one person in 10 million. Nearing the top. Delight. This is the level of saints and furthered spiritual individuals. As love becomes more unconditional, there follows a ceaseless accompaniment of true felicity. No personal tragedy or world event may ever shake somebody living at this level of consciousness. They appear to inspire and lift all those who come in contact with them. Your life is now in complete concord with the will of divinity, and the fruits of that harmony are conveyed in your delight. True happiness, on the other hand, can never be found through seeking it. It's a state of being and just happens. As a matter of fact, the greatest barrier to accomplishing true happiness is attempting to find it. As long as we are seeking happiness, we'll always be in the process of becoming happy instead of just being happy. In our search for more happiness, we ceaselessly judge our present experience as inadequate or lacking. Instead of trying to be happy, a far better approach is to learn to be present here and now. The average adult is rarely present in the moment, being constantly distracted with the 100,000 thoughts that pass daily through the average mind. The most effective way of accomplishing true happiness, however, is through regular meditation. Meditation helps us to detach from our thoughts and to anchor ourselves in the here and now. In the absence of thought, everything we seek is already there. Peace. Peace is accomplished after a life of complete surrender to the Creator. It's where you have surpassed all and have entered that place that Hawkins calls illumination. Here, a hush and silence of mind is accomplished, allowing for constant revelation. Only 1 in 10 million, that's 0.0001% individuals will arrive at this level. Your path to peace usually starts with a strong need to change things in your life. That need is often frustrated by not knowing how to accomplish that change. It's as if something is needed to complete them. In searching, many attempt to find themselves by traveling, studying, changing jobs, or even regularly flip-flopping between relationships to find that missing something. At best they might fill that incompleteness, only to realize they've a short-term compromise when the missing feeling returns. Peace of mind is experienced when the stormy waves of the mind squelch down. Real peace of mind is the companion of the hush of the mind. You get peace of mind not by thinking of it or imagining it, but by calming and relaxing the restless mind. Inner peace produces outer peace. The mind is like a room that's always occupied. There's no free space there. When it becomes vacant, peace of mind dominates. True peace of mind isn't contingent on circumstances. It comes from the inside. Learn to quiet the winds of your mind, and you'll enjoy great inner peace. Negative feelings and negative thoughts keep peace of mind away. Meditate on a regular basis, think only positively, aspire to find the consciousness beyond the mind, and peace will be yours. When you clear your mind, you enjoy peace of mind. True peace is found in this moment. Toleration is the first step to inner calm. Peace is attained not by ignoring troubles, but by solving them. Chapter 10, Enlightenment. Synopsis. Enlightenment. This is the most eminent level of human consciousness where one has become like God. Many see this as Christ, Buddha, or Krishna. These are those who have influenced all of mankind. The highest level. Enlightenment. The most eminent level of human consciousness, where humanity combines with divinity. Exceedingly rare. The level of Krishna, Buddha, and Jesus. Even just thinking of individuals at this level can raise your consciousness. Enlightenment can be viewed as a process, where if one understands the process, even if one doesn't/can't/is not able to apply it, then that individual could have accomplished a state of enlightenment, in thought. Likewise, if one implements the process, with or without being cognizant of their actions, then they've accomplished a state of enlightenment, indeed. Indeed. Since we're human, we're likely to screw up with regard to our actions every once in a while, even if we're aware of what we should have done. All the same, this cogency is what enlightenment is all about. If you know yourself truly well, then you are able to take steps to rectify the situation even if there's a lapse in action. Recognizing this is an enlightenment of sorts. In this regard, I believe that you'll be able to become de-enlightened, where if you fail to sustain a state of enlightenment, you stop living in that state. Put differently, if you accomplished your nirvana, a supreme enlightenment, through following the Eightfold Path of Buddha for instance, and you breached the path, and then you'd lose your enlightened state. Regaining this state should be easier in comparison to the original attempt, however. I'd say before one attempts anything, one should be centered and pure on their goals and the process at hand. This doesn't mean that you give it your attention every moment, but that you're not in a corrupting or ethically polluting situation. Your motivations must be pure in that you're doing whatsoever you're doing for its own sake and nothing else. This sort of lifestyle I think is necessary, for me at least, to accomplish enlightenment. Emotions are key to achieving the state of enlightenment. Emotions influence the use of our intelligence. However, Our minds and brains are potent tools, and if you are able to accomplish an enlightened state with many or all of your emotions, then productivity and progress will be easier. There's a paradox of sorts here, however. All emotions, even the supposed negative ones, are part of the human intellect. To completely block off these emotions, I think, is in the end destructive. Yet, how can one accomplish a state of contentment, or apathy, or blissfulness, while expressing these strong emotions? In my view, the answer dwells in the application of these emotions. Any emotion, when applied constructively, can be positive. As long as you harbor resentment towards a particular individual or action, you're not very likely to feel calm or content, and you're definitely not living in any sort of equilibrium. I think the key to forgiveness is to realize there's nothing to forgive, that is, go beyond forgiveness. Individuals do things on purpose or accidentally, and it is unrealistic to expect that in a complex system all interactions will go the way you want it to. Thus, when an individual does something that affects you negatively, the last thing you can afford to do is give in to those emotions. This is easier said than done. But again requires adopting a Sartrean existential worldview that you're solely and ultimately responsible for your actions. Discover truth/wisdom in life, gives you inner peace, give unconditional love to yourself and others, gives you joy, and develop and express your creativity, gives you courage/strength. Find your purpose or passion or mission in life. It's not the general instinctive/biological purpose of breeding, but something far bigger. Acquire your own living philosophy of life, that will profit you and others, and follow them all the way. Even the great Buddha, Jesus, and Benjamin Franklin did this. Share what you acquire by giving back to society. This might include teaching other people, giving money to society, and assisting those in need. This is a vital step to obtaining enlightenment, as you'll feel an abundance when you give and the joy of helping others. Never believe you have learned everything, but go along your journey in life to keep on improving. By believing you know everything is being ignorant, and soon your current knowledge will dissolve. Also, enlightenment isn't a product but a process of how you develop yourself and live your life. Wrapping up. I believe you'll find this model worthy of contemplation. Not only individuals but likewise objects, events, and whole societies can be ranked at these levels. Inside your own life, you'll see that a few parts of your life are at different levels than others, but you should be able to distinguish your current overall level. Consider the heaviest influences in your life right now. Which ones raise your consciousness? Which ones depress it? We'll by nature waver between multiple states throughout the course of any given time. One way to work out your natural state is to consider how you do under pressure. Do you get paranoid and close down, dread? Do you begin shouting at people, angriness? Do you get defensive, pridefulness? Everything in your surroundings will have an effect on your level of consciousness. Television, movies, books, sites, individuals, places, objects, food. If you're at the level of understanding, watching the news, which is predominantly at the levels of dread and want, will temporarily bring down your consciousness. If you're at the level of guilt, news will really raise it up. Advancing from one level to the next calls for an enormous amount of vigor. Without conscious effort or the assistance of others, you'll likely simply stay at your current level till some outside power comes into your life. Observe the natural progression of levels, and think about what happens when you attempt to shortcut the process. If you try to achieve the level of understanding before mastering self-control, willingness, and goal setting, toleration, you'll be too disorganized and out of focus to use your mind to its full extent. If you attempt to push yourself to the level of love before you've mastered understanding, you'll suffer from gullibility and may wind up in a cult. Ascending even one level can be highly difficult. Most individuals don't do so in their entire lives. A change in just one level may radically alter everything in your life. This is why individuals below the level of bravery aren't likely to progress without outside help. Bravery is required to work on this consciously. It boils down to repeatedly betting your whole reality for the chance to become more witting and aware. But whenever you achieve that next level, you recognize clearly that it was a good change. I think the most significant work we can do as humans is to raise our individual level of consciousness. When we do this, we circulate higher levels of consciousness to everybody around us. Envisage what an incredible world this would be if we could at least get everybody to the level of toleration. According to Hawkins, 85% of the individuals on Earth live below the level of bravery. When you temporarily feel the higher levels, you are able to see where you must go next. You have one of those instants of clarity where you comprehend that matters have to change. But when you dip into the lower levels, that memory becomes blurred. We have to go along consciously, taking ourselves back to the roots that can help us finish the next leap. Each step calls for different solutions. But you can't hit the greater levels if you haven't surmounted the basics first. Jesus was a carpenter. Gandhi was a lawyer. Buddha was a prince. We all have to begin somewhere. Work at homesuccessacademy.com. Realizing individuals are self-conscious, concerned with personal growth, less worried with the opinions of other people and interested satisfying their potential. Chapter 2, Disgrace and Guilt. Synopsis. Disgrace, just a notch above demise. You're probably mulling over suicide at this level. Either that or you're a serial murderer. Consider this as self-directed hate. Guilt, a notch above disgrace, but you still might be having thoughts of self-destruction. You consider yourself a sinner, not able to forgive yourself for past transgressions. The first two. Disgrace is said to be one step above demise. At this level, the basic emotion one feels is humiliation. It's not surprising that this level, being so close to death, is where many thoughts employment, health insurance, safe places to live and protection from the environment. 3. Social needs. These include needs for belonging, love and tenderness. Maslow believed these needs to be less common than physiologic and protection needs. Kinships like friendships, romantic attachments, and family units help fill this need for company and acceptance, as does involvement in social, community or spiritual groups. 4. Regard needs. After the first three needs have been fulfilled, regard needs becomes progressively crucial. These include the need for things that reflect on self-regard, personal worth, social recognition and achievement. 5. Self-actualizing needs. This is the highest level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Self-actual, awareness building and consciousness raising facts. Forward. From low to high, the degrees of consciousness are disgrace, guilt feelings, apathy, sorrow, dread, want, angriness, pridefulness, bravery, disinterest, willingness, acceptance, understanding, love, delight, peace, enlightenment. Although we can jump in and out of different levels at assorted times, generally there's a prevailing normal for us. This book will go over these levels in order. There is a logarithmic scale to define where a person is, so there are far fewer people at the higher levels than at the lower ones. And step up from one level to another will result in tremendous changes in your life. Awareness building and consciousness raising facts. Discover the truth behind every single choice you make as a human being. Chapter 1, Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. Synopsis. Psychologist Abraham Maslow first introduced his concept of a hierarchy of needs in his 1943 paper, A Theory of Human Motivation, 1, and his subsequent book, Motivation and Personality. This hierarchy proposes that individuals are motivated to fulfill basic needs before moving on to extra needs. The needs. Maslow thought that these needs are like instincts and play a major role in motivating conduct. Physiological, security, social, and esteem requirements are deficiency needs, aka D needs, meaning that these needs come up due to deprivation. Fulfilling these lower-level needs is important in order to prevent unpleasant feelings or results. Maslow termed the highest level of the pyramid as growth needs, also known as being needs or B needs. Growth needs don't come from a lack of something, but instead from a want to grow as an individual. There are 5 different levels in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. 1. Physiologic needs. These include the commonest needs that are critical to survival, like the need for water, air, food and rest. Maslow thought that these needs are the commonest and natural needs in the hierarchy, as all needs become lower till these physiologic needs are fulfilled. 2. Protection needs. These include needs for refuge and protection. Protection needs are crucial for survival, but they are not as exacting as the physiologic needs. Examples of protection needs include a desire for firm